Folks, this is James with Phoenix Home Services. Today we are going to be showing how to finish integral colored micro exposed aggregate and some concrete stamping as well. Now when you're doing a micro exposure, you see the concrete's been spread out here rough. We're going to come through, and it's a multiple step process to get this proper micro exposure you want on the top. Now what you'll see here is we're coming through with a bull float and just doing a rough finish on it, just kind of getting the concrete as leveled out as possible. Now this micro exposure that we're talking about, most people think of exposed aggregate as the pea gravel concrete that you see on a lot of handicap ramps, things like that. This is going to be an actual micro exposure that almost has like a sandpaper type feel. Now this thing here is a rolling tamper. What this does, it pushes the bigger pieces of aggregate down a little bit from the surface, maybe a 1/4 inch. So when we do an exposure on the top surface of this concrete, all you're going to see is just the sand and small rock particles, which are going to give it that sandpaper look, almost like a 60 grit sandpaper. So this rolling tamper now is pushing down any larger pieces of aggregate that may be at the surface. Now we're going to come through again here, use the float again. We're trying to get as close to a finish as we can on this thing before we start getting in and actually using finishing tools. So you see they're going to come through and the finish is getting a little better. And once they finish this process out, you're going to see a fairly smooth surface there to start working on. Now when you are doing these micro exposures, you got to make sure there's no lines, seams, or anything. So you'll see later on in the video they actually go through with some trowels and get a better surface here. Now on this left side we're going to actually do some stamping and some surface color casting. That's why we're putting in this little joint here. This is basically a hand joiner, good for cutting expansion joints, or in this particular case we're showing how to do a border. Now the color that was used in the center, I believe, was some sort of adobe. You see normal concrete is a gray color. This has a brown tint to it, give you a natural look. Here we're going through with a trowel and getting that final finish that we want, making sure there's no imperfections or lines in the concrete so we can go through and do the micro exposure. All this has been done for us at Virginia Concrete out at their Dulles plant, and Phoenix Home Services is 100% trained in how to do this, and we actually got a certification by entering this course. Now what we're putting in here is a product called Top Cast. This is a retardant which is going to take the top little micro layer of concrete and it's going to prevent it from setting up, so we can come back later with a broom and a washer and clean off this top surface. Now the nice thing about this Top Cast compared to products that we've used in the past is you see it has a dye in it. So you can see that you're getting a perfect coverage here on the concrete to make sure that you are getting the proper amount of retardant spread. The other great thing about this product is with some of the older retardants, if you put too much on, you'd get too much exposure and it was just hard to keep it consistent throughout. This is almost idiot proof, folks. Shows you where you're painting it, and you can't put too much on, so you basically just want to get a nice generous coating, make sure that's all coated, and then when we go through to rinse this off and use a broom to take off any excess, you're going to see the top layer gets the micro exposure. Now you see they have that board there to the right. Basically that border that we're working on, we want to keep the retardant off that because we're going to do a stamping process over there, and we don't want any exposure on the aggregate. It's going to be a regular concrete with some color and some stamping. Now what we're applying here, this is a little bit of a color. It's to give kind of a gray rustic look to the concrete on the surface here. So it's just showing how you can get a little contrast with the center part there being in a micro exposed aggregate with that light brown tan color. And then on the side here we're going to have a darker granite type color, and we're going to do some stamping. Now this is just a surface stamping, all done by hand. Very easy way to get a nice little decorative border without getting into more expensive stones and bricks. And it gives you a nice look. As you see, it's kind of just a rustic type surface, just breaks it up a little bit and gives it a nice color and look. Now the finished product, you're going to spray this off with a sprayer. Going to need a broom, kind of dig away at the surface, where you're going to see we have the edge there with a little bit of stamping and color. The center's the light brown color. Here's a close-up of the joints and the stamping and the kind of contrast between the two, and you can see the micro exposed. And then here's a close-up of a cell phone with that micro exposure, and it looks good. Gives you a nice little sandpaper feel. So you can visit us at phoenixmason.com or call us at the number below. Thank you.